Welcome to Session Wire. I am Brendan Lyons. I'm thrilled to be helping moderate and present this special presentation with Pulsar Modular, joining us from Oman.
Yeah.
Wow, like amazing. Ziad and Hisham from Pulsar Modular, father and son team. Ziad's kind of the brains behind all of the Pulsar Modular plugins. If you haven't really checked them out, go on their website and look at them. I have them all. Thank you, Ziad. I've been trying them out on different things. They're fantastic. Quite different from most other plugins. I particularly like the tape plugin. I put it on all my drums yesterday and checked it out. It was amazing. We're going to be going through their new plugin, Joyride. It's the P410, correct? P410
Yes.
Joyride. And Craig's going to be sharing some audio examples. And Ziad and Hisham are going to be talking about the technical aspect of it. And we'll be looking at exactly what it does, because it's difficult to wrap your brain around at first. But once you do, it can make all the difference in your mix. So we're going to jump into Craig. Craig's going to play a little bit of this mix and share his screen and kind of just do a quick kind of overview of how it sounds and how it can affect your mix. Then Ziad and Hisham will talk about the technical aspects of it, and then Craig will kind of dive into the nitty-gritty of particular use cases for the P410. And if you haven't yet, there's a link in the chat. I'll just repost it really quick. Pardon me. You can go in the next 5 or 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes maybe, go and grab the demo version. If you want to check it out, go to the webpage, scroll down, download it, install it. And yeah, if you have questions while we're going through all of this as well, please put them in studio chat. I will bring them up at an appropriate time. If we don't get to all the questions, apologies. Maybe if you're really nice and you DM Craig on Instagram, he'll answer questions there.
Yeah, I have nothing better to do. It's perfect.
I'm sorry, Craig.
No, I oddly answer most things that come up. And
yeah. Okay, so just really quick, let's test your HQ audio, make sure everybody can hear. We'll make sure everybody's comfy. Amazing. Okay, so pause for a second. We'll make sure everybody can hear it. If you couldn't hear what Craig was playing, go down to the very bottom of the Session Wire window. There's an HQ audio drop-down menu. Your HQ audio destination is whatever you want to hear the audio from. So it'll be the same device that you're hearing our voices out of. And you'll be able to hear the HQ audio exactly as it's coming out of Craig's Pro Tools session. So without further ado, I'm going to can it for a bit. I'll interject if there's an appropriate question to ask. Craig, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little preview of what you're going to dig into after the technical.
Well,
here.
If people don't already know, this is a 10-band graphic equalizer that goes so much further beyond that, it's hard to explain in a few sentences. However, despite the fact that what seems complicated is actually turns out to be quite simple once you wrap your head around it, and we're going to show you all kinds of stuff with this that's going to make that a lot easier. When I first started playing with this, I was mesmerized by a number of things, and I happened to stumble on one of the things that's going to be the deciding factor on whether you buy this plugin or not. And I can tell you that after I share this one particular thing that is so unbelievably fascinating to me and has never been done in a plugin before, ever. And I'm going to show you that at the end, sort of towards the end of what I'm going to demonstrate here or talk about. We're simply going to start by showing the various parameters and basically what they do, and also start with sort of the signal flow. First of all, there are 3 different windows that you can look at. Let me pull up a different instance of it. So you can look at just the knobs of the equalizer as they sit when you adjust them. You can switch views, and you can see once I hit play, you'd be able to see. You can see the audio hitting and get a visual representation of what's going on. And there's one more mode that actually shows you the curve as you adjust the sliders in real time. So those are the various views you're looking at. When I first opened the plugin, I thought they were 3 different sounds before I hit play. They're not. It's all the same sound with 3 different views of what you're looking at. The plugin is compromised of are composed of several different things. We have all these adjustments and these parameters here. We have a saturation window that allows you to add saturation to what you're hearing. It's what is important to know here is that the saturation or the drive is pre the equalization. That so from a signal flow, that is important to know. However, even with that being the case, it's highly recommended that you do the EQ first and then go back and look at the drive functions and see where adding some drive might be applicable, despite the fact that it's the first thing in the signal chain. So switching back to EQ mode, the various other parameters here, EQ flip, we have a matrix that allows you to switch between equalizing a stereo signal, and it does mid-side, which you can do just the mid and then just the sides, just the left and just the right. The fascinating thing about this is to get to get a mid-side sound, you actually have to use 2 instances in a row. So it's not all done in one instance of the plugin. If you want to do left and right, it's still 2 instances of the plugin. So anytime you want to do left and right or mid-size, you actually have to daisy chain 2 instances of the plugin separately. One of the things that's fascinating about that is it yields a sound that feels very analog, as opposed to a digital plugin where the normal mid-side thing that you see in most plugins, it switches from mid-side and then the left side is the mid and the right side is the side, and you adjust it that way. This is very different in how this works. The same thing if you're doing left and right independently, 2 separate instances. So that's sort of the first thing that should be known as far as how this plugin works. And it's one of those things that it seems a little odd at first. Why should I have to do that? Once you experiment with it, you'll know why sonically that is important. I think the next thing I want to say as we demonstrate some of these things, in my own mixing, I think it's important to know that as I demonstrate these things, if things are recorded well, you can look up and down my mix here of all the band tracks, and very few tracks have more than 1 or 2 plugins on it. If you're looking at a track like here, you're seeing 2 instances of the plugin where I'm actually doing a mid-side, but it's highly unusual in my mixes to see more than 2 plugins on any single track. The reason for that is if things are recorded well, then you don't need drastic, wild settings on any equalizer, yet alone this one, in order to make a substantial overall difference in the sound of the mix. So as you look and I pull up various instances of things, if it doesn't look like I'm doing much, it's because I'm not doing much. But the accumulative result of doing small moves with a plugin like this, given the range of sounds that you can get, even with small moves, add up to a massively huge difference in the way a mix sounds. So that is important to know. And as I'm demonstrating various instances of the plugins, I'll certainly show some extremes and move some of the sliders up and down so you can hear what extremes sound like. It's hard to sort of figure out where to really start here because there's no particular order in which things make sense. But the last thing that I'm going to show you, I promise you, is going to blow your mind. It blew mine. And as I said right at the beginning, it is the one thing that I have never seen in an EQ plugin ever. And as soon as you see what that one thing does, which I'm going to talk about last, the game is over. We're done. You don't need to know anything else after that exact moment. I cannot express enough what this one parameter does and how it affects the signal and it's just like I don't know what they're doing over there in where these two guys are at, but to have even thought of this is mind blowing.
We're based in Turkey, but we're security in Oman right now.
So we'll get to that.
No, I guess he's asking what do we eat? Maybe we're eating something.
Yeah, it's frankly true. Many of your plugins, there's so many things about your plugins in general that are not a part of your typical plugins from other companies. I think that's safe to say. The last one being the compressor that you released that also is mind-boggling. But let's get to it. Let me play a little bit of this track. I'm going to start at the top, and we're going to go from the top through a hook just so you can kind of get a feel for what this track is, and then we'll dive into parameters here. Intentionally very dry, but let's go solo some stuff and see.
Sorry, Craig. Try say that again. I have to like unmute you.
Oh, right.
You stop playing.
Sorry,
I need a faster finger.
I'll try to remember that. This song, the verses are intentionally very dry, and then the hooks get big, and then as the song moves along, we start getting bigger and more effects, and so. Yeah, that's intentional in case anybody goes, well, wow, it's really drums are really dry and then guitar is really dry. It's intentional, just so you know. So drums are all live. I added a kick sample. I've added an instance on the sample and the kick in mic, and I'm going to just solo these two things and bypass so you can kind of hear the difference. And then we're going to start talking about what some of these parameters do. Let's go to a hook. Everyone can hear the difference if you're paying attention carefully. And as I said from the beginning, it's not some drastic thing. It's pretty subtle. And let's talk about what gets us there. So let's start with the kick sample here. I'll pull this window. Well, get the bypass off. Here's something completely fascinating that I wanted to start with that Ziad and I talked about a day or two ago. There's nothing happening on this instance of this plugin. And you're going, well, why would it be there? And the answer to that question is because even with nothing happening, something brilliant happens with this plugin because it just sounds analog. And it's adding some punch to this kick drum without doing anything. And that's the first thing. It's like, I noticed he mentioned it to me a day or two ago. And I said, I already know. I've already heard it. So let me just go back and forth between this being bypassed and being in with literally nothing going on. is subtle, but yet it's not subtle, if you know what I mean. Ziad would have to explain why that is. I don't care why that is. I just know that it makes it sound better. That's all I care about. Let's look at this kick in. I'm going to play these two together and bypass them.
Just before you do that, really quick, somebody asked in here, it'd be great if audio could be louder or vocals lower. So everybody in the bottom of SessionWire, if you're on a computer, even if you're on mobile, if you just click the mixer and bring it up, you can actually see little sliders beside everybody's meters that are in here. You can lower Craig's voice for yourself if you'd like. For me, it's great. It's I don't know how you guys feel at Pulsar, everybody else feels, but you can actually adjust it yourself. We've got lots of questions as well. We're going to get to that. It looks like.
Well, before we do that, let's talk about some of these parameters here, because we're way ahead of the game.
I was just going to say, like, we're both of us, Hisham and myself, are taking notes about the questions. When we go to finish the first part of this demo, we'll kick it over to Hisham and Ziad, and they'll melt everybody's brains with all the technical information and stuff. It's going to be great.
Okay. So we have the obvious sliders here, and I can adjust them. I've saved this so I can move these around so you can see what's going on. And as you adjust the various bands here, you can see the curve, as long as you're in the EQ and curve mode, of the curve changing. That's number one. Number two, you switch to the drive page, and if we adjust some levels here, that is controlling the drive across the board. It's important to know that all these drive bars here are in serial. So if you add some gain to the bottom, and it's low frequency stuff, and as you go up and add stuff, it's happening and adding in serial. That is very important to know. They're not independent of each other. So as you adjust the bottom, it's feeding into the next band. There is a way to work around that, and it's very simple because you can bypass a band. Let's say you want to add some low-end drive, and then you want to add some high-end drive. It's easy to accomplish simply by bypassing the bands that you don't want. Very important to know, very simple to do. Again, it's something you want to adjust after you get your EQ settings and not beforehand. That is important to know. Let's talk about what EQ and drive mult is. Simply, once you get an EQ curve that you like, you can adjust positive or negative values and add or subtract without changing the overall shape of the EQ that's happening, but you can minimize it or make it greater gain or less gain as you go. And the same is true of the drive. So if you want to just experiment with the same curve that you have or the same amount of drive, but more of it or less of it, these two parameters do that very simply, so you don't have to do them one by one. The drive knob here controls the overall level or amount of saturation that's happening on the drive page. So as you increase this with the settings as they are, you're adding more saturation as you go. The voice parameter here, it interacts with this voice parameter over here. Technically, I can't tell you what it's doing, but I tell you musically what is happening here. As you turn the voice up to the right, it feels like the track is moving forward towards you. It gets a little more aggressive. As you back it off, it feels the word is laid back. It says it straight in the manual. It just feels a little more relaxed, a little further pulled back. I've used it both ways, and I have left it center exactly the way it is, doing absolutely nothing. Most of the instances that you will see here, I am pushing this forward a little bit because it just makes that track feel like it's more forward. Is there a better word for it? We'd have to ask Ziad, but that is the word. It just pushes things forward a little bit. EQ bias. This is adding second and third harmonics after the EQ'd signal. Post EQ, turning this up is going to add second and third harmonics to this. That means musically is that we're going to use this very old tired term, but it's going to glue stuff together. It's going to make it feel a little more compact. It's going to make it a little richer. In doing so, you may find while it's doing that, you may want to add a little more top end to your overall EQ curve. so that you're compensating, you're making it tighter and a little more glued together. I find that when I do that, I like to add a little more high end to the EQ curve to make that feel absolutely stunning. The voice is adding third order harmonics pre the EQ. The signal chain here is very important so that you understand when you're adding voice here, this is happening before the EQ curve. This is happening post the EQ curve. Regardless of that, if you use your ears, it will tell you what to do anyway. The one thing I like about this view is you can't let looking at the curve fool you. We are very visual people, all of us, and I can't tell you how many times I've sat there in over the last 33 years adjusting EQ, going, oh, it feels a little better if I turn up the 7K, only to realize the EQ's in bypass. So it's great to have the ability to look at this without having the visual representative fooling you. Again, the spectral will show you the various bands in real time. Main output, simply the overall level of the output of the entire EQ. That's very important to know. Matrix is where you switch between the various bands or various instances. Why is it not showing me that at the moment, Ziad? It normally will say stereo and MS. Why is it not showing that? Ziad, and what am I doing that it's not?
Because you inserted it as a dual mono or on a mono track. Once mono
okay.
track, you cannot have
That will. Okay. Okay, so here we are. If I'm on my mix bus, we're looking at a stereo instance, and that's why it's showing a stereo. Again, I can flip the left side only, right side only, mid, and side. Sorry about that. Okay, so that is a very brief explanation of the main parameters. We have an overall input level here and an overall output level here, and they can be linked so that it's as you're increasing the input, the output will automatically compensate and vice versa. That's the other thing. I'm going to let Ziad take over and talk about the ratio of the curve here and the linking that's going on as we adjust a various band, we can widen and narrow this, but he's great and we have some visuals that he can show us. So I think we're going to get out of my screen sharing before we go on and let him explain this. Sound good?
That sounds wonderful. Yeah, Ziad, you can unmute, and I put the join link in the chat. I mean, you can share it with anybody at this point, I think. I'll do my best to manage it. Hopefully there's not 1,000 people in your Discord channel that will join all at once. That would be not so fun for me, but there we go. We've got the screen share. Everybody keep putting questions, and we'll answer. I think Ziad and Hisham are going to answer a bunch of the questions that came up, and we'll let them take it away from here.
Yeah, let me just send the link over to our Discord because we have some users that had problem joining. All right, done. So I believe we are sharing our screen right now. So plug in, Doctor.
Yeah.
Can everybody see the?
Yes, we can.
Cool.
I don't need to see this one. All right. Basically, a graphic EQ are proportional. Proportional, that means, can we just have the twinkle star? No, let's have the default. Okay, what you have is, let's be in the curve. As you go up, it starts tightening up, tightening, and widening. That's the proportional EQ. Each manufacturer would have a different set where it starts and where it ends with the Q. So that means if I'm doing some modeling of a EQ, it might be like this. So it goes wide to tight. Some of them might be very mastering EQs. They will be always wide. So wide to wide, or even that wide. This is, for example, without mentioning names, but some of them are really wide. So you go like this and see how wide it is. But Some might be like that. So this is the maximum. Once you go up to 14 dB,
it will be at that value that you have over there.
that's it. At 14 dB, here it's telling you, check this area here. This is the Q of that curve at that point. So at that point in the game, this Q is
0.72.
0.72. 0.72. If I go all the way up to 14 dB, it's about 2.
It's 2.
So this is what is called a Q minimum and Q maximum. So instead of creating one fixed, that's it, I'm done with this.
Yeah, so like one fixed scale from 0 to 14 dB.
So instead of creating a proportional Q that is for only one model, I gave the user the possibility to create whatever feels good for that song. So for that song, I really want to tighten it up, or not song, yeah, if it's on a mix,
Yeah.
Or I can make it wider. So you can start from the presets, or once you're comfortable, you can start with the preset. You say, you know what, I just need it a little bit tighter or a little bit wider. So you'll work with a Q minimum and Q maximum.
Let me do this. Cool. You can keep sharing plugin, Doctor. You don't have to flip back to SessionWire if you don't want to.
Because I don't know if my videos.
No, it all shows.
No, it's always showing.
Yes.
It all shows. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so yeah, from the plugin doctor, and this is not a representation. What you are seeing here is actually like plugin doctor. So they are interacting. Let me show you how they're interacting. You can see here it's starting to get affected, or let's see here. See what's happening. So whatever is happening in plugin doctor, it is happening here. So you are seeing the effect of everything what is happening. So it's not a representation, but it's actually scanning and presenting the frequency, the curves correctly.
So basically, just a spectrum analyzer.
Spectrum analyzer inside.
Yeah, it's not like a logarithmic scale like you'd see on a parametric EQ.
No, because it's not showing the interaction of the bands. This one is showing you what's happening to the bands, actually. I'm going to show you the Q link. So Q minimum, Q maximum. You know what? Since they have a big screen, let's make it big. Let's start with the default. This is our first time in 6 years. Finally, we did a preset management. So save as, rename. You can click and drag to different folders. You can do favorite. Now it's in the favorite. Some other plugins have really full-fledged one, but somehow for my brain it gets too confusing. This seems just the right amount of stuff that you can do. Okay, so I'm back to default. Usually I like wide curves, but I really like tighter cuts. So what I do is, for example, of course you have to listen to the music, but let's say I really like this kind of cut. So what I do is I click on this one. Now this became the master, and this is the Q link. It took from this one. So I need now to do a cut here, but I don't want this wide. Look how wide it is. So all I have to say, slave it. So now this one took this one. So now both are together. And let's say this one I want to cut. So now it's cutting. So we have 3 cuts. Now I want to see, like, what if it's 5% more tighter? So instead of start playing with these, all you have to do now is play with. Once you play with this, you are modifying all linked parameters. Let's say after I did this, I really like it, but just this one, I don't want it to be like this. So the minute I modify it, it breaks the link and it becomes independent.
Yep.
The next question I'm sure you're going to have is, like, these are not representing where they are. So if I do like this, it's somewhere here. If I do like this, it is somewhere like here. Why? Because look at the scale, 31, 62, 125. It's impossible to start having these small tight things and representing them here. So you are doing the actual frequency, but now it's showing you on a proper scale. So I don't want to mess with the scale, especially also that we're going to talk about scale. The ISO is basically when you buy a parametric EQ, this is what it comes with. However, here you can have scales. And so if I change the scales, these are changing. So when they change, you don't want to mess around with stuff. So the curve stays based on these frequencies. Last thing, I
Well-
just want to show, like if you're in E, 20, multiplier, they are in octaves. So this is how it works. If I don't click here, I can click here and I go
Scroll through them.
scroll forward, right click mouse, scroll backwards.
Yeah.
Another thing, just quick things.
So yeah, just really quick,
yes.
we had somebody ask about the scale function and if it can be calibrated to say A444.
I took a note of it. Basically, no, but I like the idea. This way, if you have alternative tuning, once you set your frequency, everything should change. But that means it's going to be like a couple of days work to do this thing. But I'm going to have it for the version down the road.
Wow.
And
Okay,
then
if you want to go technical,
if I can,
yes.
don't get too far into that, because that's one of the things I want to demonstrate.
Yeah. That's why I'm done with this.
Great.
Somebody said, can I use dual mono? Dual mono is not a good idea. Why? Because you're not taking the analog world and now you're making it. In the analog world, we hardly have stereo things. We always have mono. So I would run 2 mono units, one running through the left, one running through the right. Even if you have a if a stereo hardware, usually you cannot have 100% the resistors and capacitors on the left channel being 100% like the right channel. So once you have them all in dual mono, the transformer, the output transformer, the electronics are going to be exactly the same, and it's not going to sound analog. So let me show you the difference. When I go to, before I spoil it, let's put a generic, whatever, what do I have? I don't have much, but I just need a EQ. Okay, this is an EQ. Now it's going to tell me I don't have a license for it.
Classic.
I have, it's just I don't have the USB. Basically, you know it, it's going to be static. Look at the Joyride when I go into harmonics. Look, it's all moving. And the thing is, you say like, this is scary. No, but this is at minus 125. So this movement, you need it to be on the left and on the right. If you do dual mono, you're not going to have this behavior. So yes, don't use dual mono when you're using this thing. Another question was, is the filter is linear phase? No, it is minimum phase. Linear phase is too clean and pre-ringing and this and that, and it's not the analog sound that we're going after. The drive knob. One thing about the drive knob, and I'm done. My job here is basically these are linked in series and they are leaking. So even at 0, they keep leaking, very little, 0 point something. So as Craig said, you can take it out of the whole network and you will have a different sound. Why do I need 6 of them? Basically, this is part of designing the input transformer. Once you set it up, what I want, maybe I just want this kind of thing, and then I will print it as the input transformer. So that's it, and it's finished, it's fixed. You don't see them. Somehow during the development, I was getting nice sounds, different material, this, that, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to make it fix the transformer. So now what you have is you are the engineer of your input transformer. So you set it up as you like, and you're going to get that sound. So you have infinite sound possibility with these things. The sound you'll hear is actually 100%. That's what you're hearing, but that's the full transformer. No, I don't want the full transformer. I want 30% of it, of that color that is giving, 20%. From my work, I usually work less than 20. 20 is the maximum I go. But in the beginning, you can do the 100% if you like, get the sound and lower it down.
Can I butt in for 1 second?
Yes.
2% makes a noticeable difference.
Yes.
You don't even need it to be anywhere near 10, 15, or 20%. 1 or 2% is completely audible, and I have found in everything I have done that even that makes a noticeable difference and is almost always enough if you work with the individual bands correctly and bypass the ones that aren't needed.
I will Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Ziad, and I'll just mention something afterwards. Go ahead.
Yeah, the point is the beta testers, they saying people are not going to notice. You have it at 0, so people are going to be doing like this and they're not hearing anything. Can't you put it at 5 or 10%? I said, but it already changed the sound, and most of the beta users are not hearing it. So basically, I don't want to change the sound. The sound, usually I like when you bypass and you turn on, you get a nicer sound, but I don't want the this to become tish tish or the boom boom becomes bum bum. It has to be as representative in an analogish way, the true signal. So it had to be at 0 to represent the signal. I don't want 5% or this. And people will learn. They do this and nothing's happening, and they figure out, oh, I have to do this. But from the default, I didn't want to have, because as Craig said, even 2% would change the sound a bit, and I didn't want to change the sound in a default setting. I'm done if there's no more questions about these.
I'll just interject really quickly. There's a few more people that have joined since we started. Just say hello in the chat. We got questions going on down in studio chat. I wanted to mention that this is a plugin that you need to get your hands on and really look at extremes. And I'm sure Craig's going to show us some extremes. Craig's mixing in a very, very expensive mix space that is extremely fine. And these differences are really noticeable with these little minuscule amounts that again, in your listening space, and hopefully SessionWire is translating for those of you that are in your own mix space and listening on monitors or headphones that you're really comfortable with. But get your hands on the plugin, mess around with it. It's where are the guys from Pulsar located? They're in Oman right now, but they're based out of Turkey. So yeah, something in the water over in Turkey. It's unbelievable.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you. You want to know something interesting? As I was talking to Ziad, he's been in the United States to study engineering a couple of times, and we figured out that we were both at Ohio State at the same time. But I didn't clearly get the education that he got.
It's crazy. And I will mention too, Hisham's role in building these plugins is he hears the high end. What he set up? You set up to 22K.
It's possible that it was my headphones limits because I use my headphones. Maybe if I had like more professional gear, I could have even heard even higher. I was using a Sennheiser Momentum 3s at the time. So I don't know, it might be even possible that I can go over 22, 23. I'm not sure, but at that point, nobody's gonna notice, nobody's gonna know. So probably it's not really that much useful when you're at that high of a frequency.
But for example, for the 16 kilohertz on the Joyride, when we check analog equalizers, I'm not gonna be able to hear specifically these things, and he will tell me like ours is a bit more glassy, more harsh. So then we will change stuff, and he will turn thing until he tells me now it sounds like it. Then I send it to some engineers I'm working with in the beta group, and they compare against their analog and said, "Wow, you are getting there." So that's why he became a. In the low end, I'm still better than him, but on the high end, he nails it much better than me.
Yeah, for example, in the P821 tape, I did the hiss, and even for P410, the saturation, we wanted to do some comparisons with it, like for when it's just not bypassed.
Yeah,
we wanted to hear just like when it's not bypassed, how good can we make it sound? So I was playing around with the saturation, and I got the current version where we have when it's not bypassed and everything's at 0.
And sometimes I go carried away in modeling stuff, so I add so many units to get the sound I'm looking for, and he comes fresh ear, and he says,
"Why do you have like 5 plugins all in series, all the stuff?"
So you start taking out stuff.
So I just go like two, 3 plugins, and we get like a really nice sound. And say, okay, let's make it into one big plugin.
So it's not a plugin; it's basically modules. So we linked modules so that we can get the sound transformer, EQ, that kind of stuff. So he's good at getting it minimum, and that's why P410 doesn't take too much CPU, even with 6 drives. And it's like so easy. Because Hisham always tell me, we don't need this. We can still get the sound by doing like that. And so
that's an important thing to point out for anyone who's like, well, 2 or 3 instances in a row and in series, and then doing that on a bunch of tracks. The worry about CPU is not a worry. So you can take that and throw that in the garbage immediately. CPU is great. You don't have to worry about using a bunch of instances, even in series.
Just really quick, one more thing, and then Craig, you can share your screen and do your thing. Hisham kind of gave us the green light to mention that he's working on some really cool guitar plugins for mixing.
Not plugins.
Pedals.
Guitar pedals. They are
Pedals.
going to be physical pedals. And basically, I'm going to tell you the story how it ended up. I was bored. I'm always doing programming work, and I just got tired when I'm at home. I don't have enough like brain capacity to like I'm going to continue plugin work. So I said I want to have a hobby that is not messy. So like I was thinking woodwork, but woodwork is like really messy and all that stuff. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go electrical engineering, and our plugin developer right now that is doing all the program and coding has the electrical engineering degree.
Shout to Masood.
Masood, if he's in the chat. So I said, I'm going to do electrical engineering. So I did like at least a year. I've been just practicing. And I said, you know what? I just want to do something musical. And I did a oversaturation pedal. And I told my dad, like, man, sounds pretty nice. Can you come here? So he comes here, he plays the guitar. He's like, holy crap, what the heck is this?
It's not distortion, it's a preamp.
Preamp pedal. And he was like blown away. He's like, man, this is better than 90% of the pedals on the market.
So I told him which schematic you copied. He said, no, I keep changing resistors, different
capacitors, all that
until
stuff.
I got a nice sound. So it's a unique thing.
But on top of that, this is basically all our plugins. All our plugins are just the basic components, the most basic thing you can think of, and you just build upon it. We say, okay, it sounds good here, it sounds bad here. So we always modify. This is our difference between other companies where we don't model 100% exactly on this old hardware that has been discontinued 10 years ago.
But the point is we don't, because we find that we can do better.
We do it better
in certain frequencies or in certain bands. So
for example, the P410 right now that we're talking about, the low end, perfect. It was really nice. We loved it. It was the fattest, like the best low end we've ever heard. However, the high frequencies, especially with hardware, high frequencies, there's something called in hardware where the more frequencies there are, the higher it is, the slower your components can react to it. So it's not able to react fast enough for the frequencies to start being interacted with each other. So that's the problem with hardware. The higher the frequency, the harder it is for it to react the electrical components.
So we have to design it by ear.
So we had to design, since we're now doing plugins where there are limitations, we just went all out.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm looking forward to that. I'd love to get some cool stuff for my drums. Tracking my drums.
Hopefully by end of the year.
Okay, keep an eye out, everybody. We're gonna jump into Craig. Craig, you're gonna show us a bunch of stuff here.
Yeah, we need sound.
And I'm gonna go. And I'm gonna show you the one thing that's just will be the sealer of the deal.
Here it comes.
Well, we'll get to that. Let me just show off a couple of instances of how right now I'm going to solo some drums. I have a parallel aux that's across all the drums except for the cymbals. As you can see, this is about as big wide of a curve as I've got on any instance in this entire track. I'm going to solo the drums, and then I'm going to mute the parallel processing, and just so you can hear what this is doing to the entire drum kit at once. It's easier to hear when the cymbals aren't all over the place. Let me play that one more time and listen to the snare specifically, and you can hear exactly what this is doing. Added meat and the added high end is all happening in here. Tiny little bit of drive here, and it's just bringing the snare out and pushing it forward, and it feels great. And I originally had a different plugin, as this mix started before I got my hands on this plugin. I originally had something else there. I swapped it out. I played with it before I really knew everything that was going on here. And once I figured it out, the difference, although subtle, can no longer go away. That absolutely just has to be here. Drum kit.
Let me interject something. I've noticed many EQs, once you put the high frequency, so if something is going like tish, tish, and you push the high frequency, it becomes tish, tish, instead of tish, tish. In analog world, the tish actually extends, and somebody said length. Yes, so the tish of the snare becomes tish, tish, tish. But digital EQ, usually if you push it a bit, so that tush become tush, tush, tush. So what you're hearing now, everything is like relaxed and stretched. So if you play it again, you will hear the snare, how it's stretching.
Let me play that one more time, and let me start messing around with the bands here, just so you can hear what's happening. One could argue that it still sounds absolutely fantastic, even all the way up here. In fact, as I'm doing it, I'm going, maybe I need to push this a little bit harder. Maybe it's too subtle to begin with. So
you're at 8 dB gain.
and if you take any other EQ and push 8 dB of the high end, you're going to be like that, because it's going to be painful. That's what's brilliant about how good this sounds, sonically speaking. So instead of talking about the technical stuff, let's just listen to it. I am sorry, that is incredible. That is absolutely incredible sounding. And you have to remember, this is happening in parallel. It's not on the snare. It's the entire kit in parallel across the entire drums.
Can you take the 40 hertz and push it 14 dB? All the way, 14 dB.
Hard, it still sounds amazing. There's, look, I it sounds like I'm just what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is there's not another EQ that I can do that with that would still be musical, pushing anything that hard, which is why this thing is showing up all over my mixes on multiple things. So let's go back to where this was and let's look at something else. Let's look at the bass, shall we? I have the bass split into 2 different tracks. It's one bass track. I just have a bunch of edits in it, and I'm the hooks are different aggressiveness in the playing, which is why I've split this into 2 different tracks. But let's go to a hook and just look at this instance of it. Okay, so we're looking at the bass, which still is fairly aggressive sounding, or the parameters are set fairly aggressively. So the reason that is pushed that hard is in this track, which is pretty big, and with the drums that big, there wasn't quite enough aggressiveness in the high end in the recording. As my buddy Josh is going, what? It just set a little too far back, a little too much low end, and didn't really speak enough in the upper mids and the high end. So pushing this, and you can hear a little bit of the drive causing, I don't want to use distortion as if it's accidental, because I'm also adding a plugin that's purposely doing that to help make the track feel more aggressive to begin with. So let's go look at some, well, let's look at the drive here. Same thing, a little more high end, even in addition to Decapitator that I have down here, just to make sure it really speaks in the hook when everything else gets very aggressive. Let's go look at the acoustic guitar, shall we? Like I have on a tambourine, even on a tambourine. Well, do you really need this on a tambourine? Can't a parametric EQ do the job? I'm actually using 2. I'm cutting off a bunch of low end with the parametric equalizer after this. And you can see I'm purposely dipping this out, and the result, if I bypass it, tiny little amount completely and totally brings the tambourine forward in the mix, makes it bright enough so I don't have to crank something that doesn't sound as good to make it speak within the track. That tiny little bit just makes the tambourine present while I'm cutting out a bunch of low end with a different EQ. All helps make this tambourine just speak in a way that it would never would otherwise. Let's look at one other thing before I get to the real deal sealer here. Let's look at the acoustic guitar. Let's pull it up, see what we're doing. You can see I'm bypassing bands in the drive that aren't necessary to help put some saturation in the top end. I'm doing a fairly aggressive amount of EQ here with Joyride.
I feel like I'm in the room. First, I'm hearing like I'm hearing a tape or I'm hearing from speakers. The minute you turn it on, I feel like I'm in the room, in the actual room where the recording is happening. That's how my ears are hearing the difference.
One thing I'd like to point out about one could easily argue, well, the guitar sounds great to begin with, which it does, but it's also competing with all the drums. It's competing with the bass. It's competing with the electric guitars. So in context, let's take it in and out of bypass so we can hear what it's really doing, which is obviously the most important thing here. I don't know how you could not notice and see how that's pushing the guitar forward in the mix without making it harsh, just enough top end to make it sit in the mix and be really present. It's stunning sounding. All right, now we're going to get to the big deal here. On this mix, I have a stereo version of Joyride as the one and main and only EQ here. I'm going to bypass it in and out. So let's just listen to it. This is the stereo bus EQ. Does a nice thing to the overall mix. But what I want to show you is finally getting to this scale here. There's something that absolutely magical happens. So where you start from, because you've got all the options of what key, whether you want to start in ISO, which is the band splitting farther, whether you want to start in mix mode, which are fixed bands that was decided were good choices for a mix bus, which is what we have here, and mastering mode, which is just different bands. The only thing that's really happening here, as I can demonstrate, is it's just changing what the bands are here, what the frequency of these bands are. That's all we're really doing with the various key changes here. So where you start, you can start in the key of the song. Makes sense. You can start in ISO, which is the way the default is showing up here. I'm going to go back to what I had originally. Load that back up. So we'll just listen again. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is the thing that I've done on every instance, on everything I've put it on, and that's whether I start, regardless of which key or which mode or which scale setting I start on, I get an EQ. I get it sounding exactly the way I want it. And then I figured out the real trick to this entire plugin is once you have an EQ curve that you like, is to actually just randomly start switching the scale. And what happens is, obviously, it's changing the frequency bands here. The magical thing that happens is, without changing anything about the actual curve or the actual gain or gain reduction you're doing on a single band, changing the key, something is going to pop forward without changing it, and the sky is going to open up, the sun is going to shine, and you're not going to understand why. Just changing the key makes whatever you've just done either sound a little worse or wildly better. And so you just go through the various keys, and it's just going to, like, boom, hit you in the head. And you would never think to do this. You would never take a parametric equalizer and keep the same curve, but switch the bands back and forth or different frequencies to see, well, where does it sound better? That would never happen with a parametric equalizer. With this, it's so easy to do that you start doing it, and why does this so much better if I change the up a half step? I can't answer the question. I could just tell you that it's absolute magic. So let's just play the same thing, and I'm going to start switching the keys. Where it was originally down to B, the whole mix got duller, less exciting. D. You guys, but that blows my mind. You can think you have a great EQ sound on your mix bus, and then you experiment with that by changing the key by a half step, and suddenly it's like, well, this is just wildly better. And all I did was switch the key, which is all that's doing is switching the frequency bands, which, again, you would never think to do that with a parametric EQ. And I have done this on every single instance, and I have found the best key for every single one of these tracks that I have it on. If that doesn't convince you that this is brilliant, nothing is going to.
Josh just commented, Josh, the artist,
Yes.
whose song we're playing. He says, "This is the cleanest and truest to life as intended Craig has ever gotten my music."
All right. Thank you, Josh. I'm going to show one more thing here that is really important. You're listening, and let me go back to how I had it originally. We'll listen to it one more time. Great. I'm going to bypass this. I have a mid-side thing going on with the other two instances of this plugin. Now we're going to listen to it in mid-side. It's basically the same sound as the stereo sound, but it's just gloriously beautiful, nice and wide. I'm going to turn around, I'm going to go to my console, I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to bypass between the stereo version and the mid-side version so you can A/B it very easily and quickly. So let me just turn around here. And so we can do that. Touch up here so you can see when I'm actually doing the switching, and that'll help you notice when it's happening. When it's set correctly, it's the difference to me is unbelievable. It's just beautiful. And before this plugin, I hated mid-side, couldn't stand it, would never use it. Now I can't see not using it on every mix from this second forward with this plugin. I'm going to play one more time and A/B it, and if you disagree with me, we'll take it out back. Comes to life, does it not?
I think, I mean, the response in the comments is amazing. I mean, and it is completely obvious what's happening when you're switching between stereo and mid-side. It's unbelievable.
It's not subtle, and I'm never going back on a mix bus. Never.
Even though the settings that you're using are subtle, you know, your EQs, a couple of dB here and there, and
so like let's just go take a look at the mids and see what it's doing, and we can leave that open, and we can take a look at the side next to it. I'm dipping a little low end on the sides. I'm adding a little weight in the middle because I'm dipping here. A little brighter on the sides. Nothing's drastic, but the difference is it's just magical.
What's going on in the drive window for each of those?
I don't remember. Not much.
Let me interject something here. Many plugins, when they convert from stereo to mid-side, the same knobs on the mid are the same knobs on the side. And then you start working. This is completely wrong. They should be completely, has nothing to do with each other. That's why we have mid alone, side alone, because you will do side different than the mid. Never the same curves are on the side and the mid. It's not correct from my perspective. So that's why we start fresh. And as you can see with Craig, each one is a completely different curve.
Yeah, insane. Stunning. All right, I have to play one thing, and this is for Josh's sake only. I'm going to play the bridge through in mid-side. I'm going to inactivate the stereo here. So we're only listening to that. I'm going to go to the breakdown and play through the... You ready, Josh? So there used to be a drum fill through that hole there. I muted muted that spot and had my buddy Anthony Resta send me a few samples of a thunder and a boom, and the drum fill is gone. And if you heard the lyrics here, you would go, oh my God, it works perfectly with the lyric, and I'm going to make him listen to it one more time. And for you guys' sake, I've got mid-side on one of those boom sounds as well, so that the boom explosion sound is nice and wide, and we've got a second boom, and we've got thunder doing the other part of that. And if I remove the mid-side on the one explosion sound, the whole thing falls apart as well. So we're not even going to let you hear that because I don't want you to hear that without it. I have shown you everything that I need to show you. Again, I'm going to reiterate that a lot of this seems very technical, but an hour with it, and after hearing all this, and you're going to be wondering how you ever lived without this plugin.
It's so musical. It's just unbelievable. Somebody just said the sound of your mind being blown. And I just want to say this too, after having known Craig for a couple of years now, and like we talk, like we'll get on the phone or we'll get on SessionWire and we talk and whatever. I don't think I've seen Craig this animated and excited about a plugin in a long time, which is saying something, you know, like
given that I have every plugin on the planet. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's I can't remember. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. You either messaged me or you just like we hopped on a SessionWire call and you said, I just got this plugin and it is insane. And you know, for somebody with Craig's ears to say that, it's ridiculous.
Yes. So, you know, and as I've said a million times on Instagram, I talk about a bunch of different plugins, and I only talk about the plugins that I really, really like, because I can't stand the thought of anyone thinking that I just do this for the sake of a plugin company because they give me free plugins. That's meaningless because I have everything. Look, when we get off this call, you need to go download the plugin. You need to play with it. You need to look at the just the page, first two pages of the manual that just show you what those parameters are doing, just to remind yourself, and it's a done deal. You'd be out of your mind not to grab this plugin. I'm sorry to say.
We're getting to the bottom of the hour here. It is 20 after. If anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat really quick. We'll try to address a couple of them before we wrap here. I can quit your screen sharing for you, Craig. We'll just kind of, so everybody can see our faces. Once again, the 410 will be out. P410 Joyride will be out soon. It sounds like there'll be an update for alternate tunings as well, which will be, you know, if anybody has a feature request, put it in the chat really quick. This price. Somebody's asking about price.
$1 million.
$1 million.
Yes. Also, somebody asked if there'd be oversampling options.
Oversampling is built in different places in the 6 engines and this and that. And the EQ are non-cramping, so really no need to have any additional oversampling. What's inside is just enough so that you can go crazy because you're going to use it. I'm using it a lot. Greg is using it a lot. I don't want you can use it 2 times in a session and
I'm going to interject here. Oversampling in other plugins is always interesting to me because when you go higher, the sound gets thinner. In some cases, that can be used as a EQ feature, but generally speaking, I don't understand why, as not being technical, why when I go from 1 times oversampling to 2 times to 4 times to 8 times, the sound gets so thin, it's wildly unusable to me. I want to EQ something. I want it to be right. And then I don't want to have to play with options of oversampling to see if the quality of the EQ gets better when then I still have to go in and change the EQ to make it work properly because it gets thinner. That's a meaningless feature to me. if you can build it into the plugin and make it sound great. And so you can just use the plugin at its best version without changing the quality of the plugin. That's a win for me. And I hope none of my other plugin company friends are here listening to that. If you are, I'm sorry.
But I'll tell you something. The point is, if you are going to use oversampling, you have to do it from the beginning, because it changes the sound. It thins it out, because
I just said.
because the reflected signals are not there anymore. So that thickness is not there, but it's clean and pure. However, from the beginning, and then you start adding stuff. But if you fix everything, that's the sound I'm looking for, and then you say, okay, now I'm going to print it. I'm going to put 16x offline. It's going to change the whole thing. So if you're not hearing it, that's your problem, but you change the whole mix. Either you start from the beginning or don't use it.
The bottom line is, yes, if you're going to use oversampling, you have to figure out what oversampling rate you're going to use, and then you EQ the sound. And everyone does that completely backwards. They get an EQ sound, and then they change the oversampling, and they don't think to fix the EQ curve to adjust for it. Do not do that.
And I'm sure everybody that's in here knows Craig's strong feelings on food groups and things like that. So we'll add this one to the T-shirt that I'm going to have made.
Right.
Don't do these things. We had a couple more questions come up. Do the saturation bands mirror the EQ bands, and do the saturation
No, the
bands
saturation.
It's independent.
No, it's independent. It's just the fuzziness. It's the wool. It's things around this. So either it's on the high frequency, they are going to be hairy more, or on that side more, not related to the frequency. But of course, if you change the scale, that saturation differently. But that's about it.
And also, we had a feature request about delta listening, which would be interesting. Should be interesting.
We use Reaper. I think it has. What are they planning to hear? And like 6-engine saturation and the EQ coloring. They want to compare what it's doing. I might add it, but technically you can do it yourself. But I'll see.
Oh,
I'll add
there
it.
you go.
What was the price that we decided on?
I just said 1 million.
You didn't.
But they corrected it and said this was in the 1960s. Now you have to say 1 billion.
For inflation, adjusted for inflation.
What was his name? I forgot the movie.
I never watched it.
No,
I'm too young.
Everybody knows.
I'm too young.
Dr. Evil?
Yeah.
The Dr. Evil, yeah. You'll have to wait, I guess.
No. It's going to be 225, similar to the high-end stuff I do. But you have up to 30%, depending on your tier level, loyalty tier.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have a 15% discount.
For the launch. Yeah.
And whoever downloaded today,
the demo, we have your email. We're gonna deposit
$10. So 10 plus 15 plus up to 30%. Hopefully, we'll get you back into the 100-something, and you should be okay.
Awesome. Somebody was asking about the filters being linear phase again.
Again, linear phase is not the analog sound. It is good, but if I'm doing a digital EQ or I'm doing some surgical thing, but if I want to do what I'm doing right now, 14 dB on a linear EQ, probably the pre-ringing and other stuff that, like you have a Maybach car and then you put 4x4 wheels on it. They don't work together. So basically, it's a design choice.
Yeah, and somebody was asking about soloing, being able to solo bands as well, which would be kind of similar to delta listening, like that. See,
that's a no. That's no.
I have very strong feelings about that one as well. What does it really tell you?
It's gonna mess your ear hearing it, and then when you try to EQ it, it's already you messed your ear. However, in the whole context, push up 14 dB if you want up to 14 dB, but you're still hearing the whole thing. Okay, I'm hearing where it is, but in context, that's a better choice.
So that's, again, I'm putting it on the T-shirt. No soloing bands. Somebody, why 2 instances for left and right? I think that was backwards. There's 2 instances for mid-side, one for mid, one for the sides. There's 1 instance for stereo. We kind of covered that. You can go back and watch the video again after. If you watch this, the video will be up for repost again, and you can hear the examples and and see
What
Craig
is this
switching back and
equality?
forth. What else? That's kind of it for questions, I think.
Let me do again why two instances.
Yes.
Again, we said it before, but the thing is, in analog world, you cannot have 100% a left channel cards and resistors and capacitors, and on the left and the right channel, it's impossible. So if you're looking for an analog sound, you have to do like an analog. So the left and right cannot be 100% the same. So I have to use two instances so that each one can create its own randomization, its own modification of the saturation just a little bit. That's why the phasing between them, the minimum thing that's happening between them interaction is going to tell you, wow, it sounds analog. If I make it one instance, all of them are doing exactly the same thing on the left and right, you're going to say, oh, it's nice, but it's not alive. And you need the alive, you need that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Okay.
Somebody's asking if you can explain how to do mid-side.
One is mid, and then insert another one and put it inside. The mid.
Right, but
yes,
I think they're referring to as opposed to other plugin companies. So earlier you described how, you know, in some plugins when you switch to mid-side, the controls stay the same.
Yeah.
And you're.
Let me share the screen.
Entire screen. You have to click it. Yep.
Share. Let's stay in plugin doctors. Doesn't matter. But then let me load P410 again. So let's assume I'm in a DAW, and you can see I put two of them. So now is this the smallest thing in this thing yet? Yeah. Okay. So I put this one in mid, this one inside. Now I'm seeing.
Put them above each other.
In curves? No, spectrum. Okay, now I'm seeing them both. So I can be EQing the mid, I can be doing the side at the same time, not flipping the same pages. You need to see and interact with them. And each one is behaving through its own input transformer, its own randomization, so it will create that thing that you're looking for. Now, if I'm in mid, do I hear only the mid? No, you're gonna hear it in context. You are EQing the mid, but you are listening to the stereo. That means it's mixed back with the side. So I'm mixing it back with the side, not doing anything, but I'm hearing it in context. In case I want to hear only the mid, I solo the mid. Now I'm hearing only the mid. Okay, for a few seconds, let me hear this. Okay, I'm done. I take it out. Now I'm hearing mid and side together, but only EQing the mid. Then I jump here. Now I work on the side. Now this is finished its job. It went, the signal went, which is in analog world, that's what happened. It goes to the second one, and now I'm doing the side. I'm not gonna copy this. It's impossible to get the right sound like this. In this one, I say, you know what? I don't need the low end, and I need it to be a tight. I don't need this thing, or maybe not tight. Let's make it very wide. So I cut the up to 500, that's too much. Okay. So this is too wide. Okay. So now I took out from the side this thing, and I needed this kind of stuff here, very wide. See how wide it is, or tight? No, no tight. Okay. So now this is the side. Now I want to just hear the side. So you press this one. Now you're hearing only the side. So it's going to be a very washed, phasey sound because it's side. And if you like, you can EQ things in this thing, and then you're back. And now in context, you're hearing the mid and side. That's it. Same thing.
And I will share with you that when I built the mid side in this track.
Yeah. One thing about the left and right, and then same thing here. You do the left and right. Here, no, it's not going to be this. So usually what's going to happen is let's go for a drum kit, and I go for a left, and I have one drum kit, and I have the right. So it's a bit different than the other one. If I want, I can solo the left. Remember, the left is having the right and playing, and I'm adjusting the left. If I put solo, I'm hearing only the left. Now I'm hearing left and right, but EQing only the left. I'm hearing left and right, but I'm EQing only the right. I hope you're not confused, but this is it. Okay, great.
Soloing the individual bands, whether it's left or right or mid and side, only gets you so far. If you're not listening in context, it's just meaningless. While I built that, I tested the solo just because I wanted to, understand how it worked with two different bands. But the reality is that they were EQ'd with both of them in, and you have to play with it until it just feels right. You get the nice, the right width. Muting the sides while EQing the mid is completely meaningless without it being in context. So when you buy the plugin and when you play with this, sure, go ahead and solo it just so you understand what's happening, but then don't really do it on your mix without hearing both at the same time, because it's just meaningless.
Yeah. So somebody just asking for, I think, further clarification on processing mid-side the way that you do. Never mind the sound of the plugin, but why is it a better system that way than building it directly into the plugin? I think is kind of what they're asking. Having processing mid in the same plugin, processing side in the same plugin. I think DF mix. I hope we're gonna get down to the bottom of what you're asking here. Maybe just expand a little bit if you can, and we'll try to address it, because I think it's a really interesting. It's kind of, I'm gonna have to wrap my brain around this whole thing as well.
In analog world, you have a stereo. Let's say you have a stereo equalizer, and you want to do mid and side. You're gonna take the left and right. One goes to the mid, and one go to the side. After you convert your signal to a mid side, you send it to the, you have a MS decoder, encoder. So this goes this one goes this one, and then the output signal is then, after it's encoded, then it's decoded, and you're back to the stereo. So it's going to two things. When it goes to two things, is this equipment the same as this equipment on the right side of the EQ? It's not going to be 100%. So you need to have a variation. If I'm running it through the same engine, which is even less CPU intense because it's using the same thing, the mid and side movements of the stuff are going to be exactly the same. And being exactly the same is going to sound more digital. I'm going to show you this, and this is going to get this thing once and for all. Okay, check this out.
And then I'm going to speak to this musically as to why.
Yeah. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to zoom. Do you see red? And this is left and right channels. Do I have mid and side? Red, right, and left. Let me take one out, and this one. Now it's in one signal, so I'm going to go to a two signal thing, so it's a stereo. So you can see it's a blue and red, left and right. You see they're not equal. So that's why in mid and side you need to have a bit of a different behavior. That's why I needed two separate signals. Okay.
Musically speaking, as I've stated earlier, I've been mixing for 33 years. I'm almost embarrassed to admit that at this point, because I don't want to be that old. Never once in 33 years until this plugin came out have I ever used mid-side, because it didn't sound good. It sounded digital. It sounded manufactured. There were 15 other ways I can make a mix sound wider without using mid-side until this plugin. I don't know any other way to put it other than it never did a damn thing for me until last week.
I think again, like, get your hands on it and compare, other EQs and how their mid-side processing behaves with extremes compared to Joyride with two instances, and see what it does to your mix. I think that's really what it's going to come down to, is, if you can notice it and it makes a difference in your mix, and that's
one thing I think is important.
I'm going to do also another video after the launch, just focusing on mid-side, showing exactly how it runs and demystify it. So don't worry about it.
When I'm going to add one last thing as far as talking about mid-side goes. The genre of music you're working on has everything to do with how wide you make the stereo image by changing how different the side is as compared to the mid, or if you do it at all. If you're working on a hip hop track, you're probably not going to want this big, glorious, beautiful side thing happening as compared to a pop track or a singer-songwriter track like this. So the idea of just processing mid-side because it sounds like a cool thing to do, you can't put away the idea of what you're working on and what's appropriate. That has nothing to do with this plugin, but as you play with this plugin, you need to keep that in mind so that you're processing the music you're working on appropriately. And that is the last thing I have to say.
Yeah.